Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. So we are up bright and early this morning. It's about 6 a.m. and the reason we're up so early this morning is because one, the heat. It has been so hot lately. It's been about 85, 90 degrees, up in the upper 80s in humidity, and I want to get all of our work done before that heat hits this morning. The second reason is we're going to be taking our first step towards our new pond build construction. Now, in our area with our state regs and our local county township regulations, if you are under a 1 acre pond, you don't have to get any special permits or anything like that. The only thing we have to have is on site, we have to have an erosion and sediment control plan. So I actually have an engineering consulting firm coming out to visit us this morning. They're going to be the ones writing up the plan for us. Like I said in a previous video, it's probably something you could do yourself, but since we're going to be making videos on this entire pond build construction, I want to make sure we have everything in place. So since they're going to be here later this morning, I wanted to go down and brush hog the area. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave where the pond is actually going to be unbrush hog. That way we'll get a good visualization for the size and shape of the pond we want to build. But everywhere around where the pond is going to be, we're going to go ahead and brush hog that all down. So anyway, it's nice and cool out right now. Let's go ahead and get brush hogging. All right, so I'm here with Dan. We just got done walking around the area that we went and brush hogged this morning, kind of outlined the shape, location of the pond. Dan, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Dan. I work for PCE, and we're a civil and environmental consulting firm here locally.
And he brought with him the E&S plan that we need. And like I said earlier, we are under an acre here, so we don't need to get any special permits or anything. Obviously, that's going to vary from your location, state to state. But here where we're located in Pennsylvania, if you're under an acre of total disturbed soil, you don't need any special permitting or anything like that. One thing that Dan pointed out is it's not under an acre for the pond, it's under an acre of total disturbed soil. So you've got to factor in outside of the berm of the pond how much land is, you know, your dozer or excavator or whatever equipment you're going to be using going to be disturbing. So I want to quickly talk about what an ENS plan is, and I'm going to let Dan go ahead and take it away and talk about if you're going to be building a pond, what agencies do you need to contact beforehand? Who do you have to worry about coming and getting you in trouble, and what kind of paperwork should you have?
All right. Well, an erosion sedimentation control plan is basically how you're going to control the runoff from your construction site. So if you're disturbing earth in Pennsylvania, if you're disturbing more than 5,000 square feet, you need to have an erosion sedimentation control plan. And it doesn't have to necessarily be submitted anywhere, but you have to have one on site, you have to implement it. And so that plan basically includes different best management practices, compost filter sock, which we're going to use here on this project, seeding and mulching at the right specifications, and all of these things together. Basically, the idea is that when you're constructing your site, that the water that's running off your site is not polluting downstream areas or downslope areas or adjacent areas.
And that was another thing that we talked about, was once you start construction on the pond, you really want to get the project wrapped up as quickly as possible and get it seeded. That way you don't have to worry about additional stormwater runoff. And the sooner you get the project done, I think you said what the recommendation is, you need to have 70% of the construction area covered and seeded and growing before you can take that filter sock out, right?
Yes, yes. So that's typical for any BMP installation, best management practice installation. You can't remove those until 70% of your site is stabilized, whether you're stabilizing it with vegetation or your parking lot's paved or whatever you're doing. And that, again, that's to protect those downslope areas from sediment-laden runoff.
And the whole point of this is to keep muddy water runoff from getting into Pennsylvania waterways or whatever your state waterways are.
Right.
So I also wanted to talk about, so if somebody watching this video right now wants to go out and they say, all right, I want to build a pond, who's the first person they should call?
Well, I think it would depend on where you are. So in Pennsylvania, the first place you would want to call would be either your local DEP office or your local conservation district.
The first person I called was the conservation district, and they were the ones who they're very helpful. When I was first calling, I thought, oh, these are the people that are, have all the red tape and everything like that. It wasn't like that. They were very helpful. They put me in contact with what I needed, what kind of paperwork I needed, who to contact, and they actually gave me a list of consultants that could come out and put together this ENS plan for me, and you guys were on their list. So you said either the DEP or the conservation district, right?
Yes, yes. You may also, depending on where you are, may have to contact your local municipality or county. There may be regulations that those entities have that may apply to a pond or a similar operation in your area, so you may want to look into that as well. And
we were talking earlier, where we are here, you don't have to worry about your municipality code, because in our area, they're only concerned with dwellings or structures or any type of building. And you mentioned like a parking lot, things like that. So depending on where you live and what kind of jurisdiction your municipalities have, if they're concerned with ponds, that might be something you have to worry about. But here, ours only are concerned with buildings. So another thing that you have to be concerned about if you're building a pond is a wetland delineation. Now, our conservation district, I called them, and they told us we didn't have to worry about a wetland delineation. They got an aerial map, looked at soil maps and things like that, and said we don't have anything that's classified as a wetland here. But I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about wetlands a little bit as well.
Okay. A lot of times people are interested in building a pond where they say, oh, I got an area on my property, it's already wet, I just want to make a pond there. And
it's too wet, they can't mow it, it's always muddy.
Yeah, they can't mow it, I just want to build a pond there. It's a low area, and you really have to be careful with that, because that area, if it's already wet, may be classified as a wetland, and wetlands are federally regulated through the Army Corps of Engineers. So you want to be really careful that you're not impacting a wetland to build your pond, and that would be another reason to reach out to a consultant or like Adam said, the local environmental agency or the conservation district could give you some guidance on that.
Now, is there any minimum size that a wetland would be? Like, say you've got a 10 by 10 patch in this field out here that is constantly wet. Is that small enough to be under any kind of threshold to be classified as a wetland, or, you know, does it have to be a certain size to be considered a wetland?
Well, generally, because wetlands are regulated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers at the federal level, and state levels regulations vary a little bit, but generally wetlands are regulated down to 1/100 of an acre.
Oh, wow.
Which is a couple hundred square feet.
Yeah.
So you really, you know, even a small area maybe something, depending on your state regulations, maybe something you need to consider too.
So if you say you do have a wetland, is there any way to get around that? Like, I think when I talked to my conservation district, they said if you get a wetland delineation. What is a wetland delineation?
A wetland delineation is basically a defining an existing wetland area. So it's defining where the boundaries are, you know, the shape and the size of that wetland area, and the characteristics of that wetland area. You know, is it just grasses, or is it trees and shrubs? Because all of those are factored into, if you're going to impact that wetland, what the permitting is going to look like.
Okay, so you can get a permit to, say, remove a wetland and put a pond in. You just have to get that proper permitting ahead of time.
Yes, the permitting gets expensive, and when you impact a wetland, you have to mitigate or recreate that wetland somewhere else, generally.
Oh, okay.
So that's another thing to consider is if you're going to impact a wetland, that makes the price tag go up.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, I want to thank Doug for stopping out here, and you know, he created this entire E&S plan from looking at the property aerially, you know, on Google Maps and whatever soil charts you have. But then he's kind enough to actually stop out here and look at the area in person and make sure before signing off on this that everything in person looks like it does on the map. So once again, thanks Dan for stopping out. Appreciate it. And we're gonna go ahead down here and take a look at the area that we have for the pond. All right, so here is a quick drive around to the pond. I thought this would be the best way to give you guys an idea of the size and shape of what we're planning on putting in here. And I also wanted to show you the water source that we have that's gonna feed this, because we're gonna have this grade from about 3 feet in the shallowest part down to about 9 or 10 feet deep down near the dam, which is where we're gonna be sitting right now. We'll have to build up this side of the dam here, and it'll be 10 feet deep here. So we're gonna need a lot of water to fill this pond. But let me show you the water source we have to fill it. So I mentioned while we were driving up here that this pond we're planning on having be about 10 feet deep in the deepest spot. That was another thing that Dan told me, was if you're planning on going over 15 feet deep, that is something else that would be a triggering event to require a permit. But like I said, only 10 feet deep here. So the water source we're planning on using, we have a natural spring that comes down here. You can see the high grass. I couldn't get in here with the mower because it's too muddy. But up here you'll see there's water that runs all year round in here, even when we haven't had rain in 2 to 3 weeks. We haven't had rain now in a couple days, and you can see there's still water trickling down through here. But yeah, I mean, right now this doesn't look like a ton of water, but we also have our downspouts from the house that drain down in here. We've got an underground line that comes down into this swale and then comes down through. So when we get rain, we get quite a bit of water that moves down through here. Also, there's another spring head over in this part of the field. Now, this one over here is already directed exactly where we want it to go, into the pond. This one will have to retrench and redirect the water from here to go down into the pond, but that shouldn't be too big of an issue. But you can see this area up here stays muddy just about all year round as well. Mowing this is kind of a pain in the butt. I'm always getting the tractor stuck in here. It'll be nice to get this dried out and get all this water redirected into the pond. So yeah, that is the plan. About a half-acre pond here, graded from 3 feet down to about 10 feet deep. The reason we want it to be about 10 feet deep is if you're planning on stocking it with fish, you want to give the fish a nice cool place to go in the summertime, as well as warm enough water in the dead of winter. But yeah, we should be officially breaking ground on this within the next month or two. I'm really looking forward to it and getting this pond filled up. But that's gonna about wrap this video up. Don't forget, if you want some of your own Hometown Acres merch, go check out our website, hometown-acres.com. If you enjoyed this video, give us a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.